How you doing, guys? Welcome back to whatever this is. I know I'm not the only one noticing it. Seems like there's a gold rush no one told me about. For the last 3 years, I've just been seeing video after video of African Americans, Europeans, white Americans moving to Kenya or visiting Kenya and ending up moving here permanently. So I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to also get the feedback from anyone who is on YouTube who has stumbled onto this video, just so that I can make sense of the entire phenomenon. Kwa sababu if you never left Kenya, this might look like something that is coming out of nowhere. But mina kumbuka when I was in uni in Malaysia, I kind of started seeing seeds of this movement back then. And what we're seeing now is just the fruit, so let's get right into it. So I had the luck and the opportunity to go to university in a foreign country in Southeast Asia, Malaysia. When I was there was a very negative stereotype, not just among the Africans, even with the locals there, the Malaysians. When it came to Africans, Nigerians were seen as a no-no. I remember I had this assignment when I was doing my digital media and advertising course. The assignment was to compile news stories and sort them from a certain date to a certain date. And there were so many stories of Malaysians complaining about Nigerians and how overbearing they were to them because the culture clash was so different. You know, Nigerians are these very outward, very vocal, very expressive nation. The Malays and the Chinese were very soft-spoken, and I remember a specific article talking about how the presence of Nigerians in elevators was so overbearing to locals that they would opt out of riding the elevator and take the stairs if they happened to walk into the elevator and see a Nigerian inside. And I remember also having so many spats with like taxi drivers, but the moment they will realize I am not Nigerian and I am Kenyan, their mood entirely changed. They would begin the transaction or the interaction with being very hostile, but it got to a point where they will even pick up your accent. They will notice quickly. Their first assumption was always, are you Nigerian? If they don't hear the Oga, oh, they're like, oh, no Nigerian, where you from? I'm like, I'm Kenyan. Oh, Kenya. Long distance runner, cricket, Kenya cricket. So I noticed that with the Malays. But another thing I noticed when I was there is our reputation among other fellow Africans. And Kenya was highly respected. Over there, I mingled with Africans from Nigeria, Ghana, Lesotho, Swaziland, South Africa, Botswana, North Sudan, South Sudan, Ugandans, Rwandese. There were Africans from everywhere. North Africa, Morocco, Libyans. Across the board, Kenyans had their respect. We were known as social. We were known as kind-hearted people. We were known as just good vibes all the way, man. And I got invited to so many college parties just off of the virtue of being a Kenyan. Before I left Kenya, I had no idea that Kenyans had that reputation out there. But witnessing that in a foreign country really lifted my spirits and made me so proud of belonging to this country we call home. It also made me appreciate what we have here in Kenya. I also met many Europeans there, and what I learned is many of these countries that we dream of visiting, we dream of going to, their environment, their climate pales in comparison to what we take for granted here at home. I would hear things like Kenya has like 5 countries in one. It has mountains, it has a beach, it has deserts, it has highlands, it has wildlife plains, things that we see like they're just normal here. People will look at our environs like, damn, this is like a pearl, like it's a gem, it's a jewel. It's a miracle of life. That should explain why tourism in Kenya has always been a staple. I think we take for granted the diversity of terrain, the diversity of climate that we have here. And another thing I noticed when I was in Malaysia is Kenyans are more pop culture literate than any other country I had interacted with out there. I used to play PlayStation online a lot when I was in Malaysia, when I was in uni. when you're playing online, you're playing with people from across the world. The servers you're linked with is like Japan, America, Europe. I guess it's the same here as well. I just haven't played PS a lot since I came back home. But I remember playing with people from America, different states, Chicago, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I had online friends in all those states. And some of these guys, I would know more about their state, or even something like the artists coming out of their states, like rappers and stuff, more than them. I would school them on people who I've heard of that they haven't. But this guy is from your state. How do I know him and you don't? I talked to so many Black Americans, but this was the 2010s. But I talked to so many African Americans who had no idea who Thomas Sowell was. That just made me realize how pop culture literate Kenyans are. We were raised off of this, an amalgamation of American media. I realize now that the media there, like there's like a state segregation of the media. They watch their state's news. That's what they call their local news. And so many Americans had no idea what was happening right outside their state. And that was new to me, because in Kenya, we ingest the entire world's media, not just even our local county. So it's been really dope to see that even the Kenyans are starting to realize that we are sitting on gold. And that hasn't been more apparent than from the reactions from across the world of the Kenyan protests that have been happening since last year. And if there's anything that has driven that point home, that Kenya is a gem that the world should protect, is the reaction of the global community towards Kenyans just protesting for good governance and the country they want to see. See, when I was in Malaysia, that's when I realized that Kenya is something special. And I came back, but when I came back, I felt like I'm the only one who knows this. But finally, I'm starting to see that Kenyans are realizing it too. Just search Kenya on any social media platform, on YouTube, Facebook, and see the kinds of videos you see. See the kinds of things people have to say about Kenya. It's all praise. Even in the African context, you see African Americans moving to Africa. They first went to Ghana, many went to South Africa for good reason. Most of them are genetically from West Africa, but not everyone went to West Africa, even though Ghana is the first place that invited them back home with there was a return to home kind of movement thing that they did. That was amazing to see. But what was more amazing is seeing some African Americans be like, okay, that's great, Ghana is dope, Nigeria is dope, but let's see what else Africa has to offer. They go all the way to South Africa and they see, okay, the infrastructure is amazing, might be the best in sub-Saharan Africa, but let's see what more Africa has to offer. And then they get to East Africa, they get to Kenya, and they're like, oh my God, this is where we belong. Even though most of them aren't genetically from Kenya, but they feel like they belong in Kenya more than a more developed South Africa, more than their genetic home in West Africa. They feel like Kenya is more home than both those places. Why? If you have an answer, please tell me in the comments, because I can list many things, but I don't know what really to pin it down on. And as much as Kenyans are realizing that, damn, we are sitting on gold, we're also realizing that many things that Kenya has to offer, most Kenyans can't afford. All the beauty that these guys are talking about. Most Kenyans, I don't think, have gone to Tsavo, for example, see the national parks, or Masai Mara. It's expensive, and they just made it more expensive with the new rates for the national parks. All the fancy Airbnbs these guys are flaunting on their YouTube pages, most Kenyans can't afford that, but they're beautiful. So I don't even think it has anything to do with the material things that these guys come and find here. I think the biggest thing that is pulling the world to Kenya is what we have in here, man. Our heart, who we are, our culture. It goes back to pre-colonial age, because Kenya was a trade hub. I don't know if you guys know, but Mombasa was a trading port for centuries before the colonialists came here. You could say we were already globalized back then, pre-colonial times, because there were trade routes from Mombasa all the way to West Africa. And these were known by the merchants that would travel the seas back then. That's where Swahili came from. Swahili is a trading language. So I think we've always had this internal pride because subconsciously we've always known our worth. I mean, for centuries, people have been coming here from their distant lands just to trade. Whatever they were coming to get here, whether it was spices, whether it was our agricultural products, we've interacted with the outside world for centuries. I think that's part of the pride that we all share as Kenyans, being from Kenya. But I think now there's a new opportunity that is arising for Kenya because, let's be honest, this country game is a new game for us. We didn't identify as a country before colonialists. We got divided into these borders and we are new in the country game. But this is an advantage for us because as much as our country plays with the colonial legacy rules, which are extractive and meant to benefit the colonialists to this day, I think we are faced with an opportunity now. We're faced with an opportunity to restructure our system so that it can favor us as natives, as locals, as Kenyans, as Africans. And what does that opportunity look like? Now that diasporas are flooding back home like there's a gold rush, we have the chance to work hand in hand with them and us younger Africans, younger Kenyans who are slowly dripping into positions of power. We have a chance to restructure a system that has more social mobility. Because right now, we don't have much social mobility in Kenya. We used to with the boomer generation, when the boomers were the young generation, and companies would sponsor people through university and hire them immediately after uni. That's when we had some social mobility. People, you could get into like a KPLC from like a ground guy and work your way up over the years to like a managerial position. And I don't think we have that now. I don't think even people want that because the buying power for the salary back then is different to now. Okay, the boomers had it good. They got put through scholarships. Us, we're getting put through HELB, which I'm pretty sure you have to pay back. So this is a chance for the diasporans and the younger Kenyans who are growing into leadership to work together and build a utopia of sorts that works for both the diasporas and future Kenyans. I feel like the cushion that the boomers were given, it bred some sort of apathy, and we've lost that uzalendo, that Kenyanism that protected Kenyan interests and thought of future Kenyans. I mean, that is evident with the current administration. But like I said, we are new in this country game. We haven't had centuries of playing this country game like the West. So we have an opportunity in front of us to build something more robust based on the lessons we've learned from watching these guys who have played the country game for much longer than us, and also based on respect for natural laws. So I just thought I'd comment on what I'm noticing with this huge exodus from the rest of the world into Kenya, and I would really love to get your opinions on what you think is happening, if you think it's good for us as Kenyans, also if you're for it or against. Thank you for everyone who has taken their time to watch this video or any video of mine. I really appreciate it. If I give you any value, whether it's entertainment or information, it will mean a lot to me if you will subscribe and like the video. Help this channel grow, and let's continue getting to know each other. Till next time, peace.